Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Lions Den podcast. I'm Danny Wilson. I'm here with
Jack Town.
Jack Craig.
Cameron Smith.
Jonathan Smith.
Gavin Davis.
And the first thing we wanted to talk about this week is our CL volleyball team. Now, they, for the first time since 2006, were able to clinch the district championship. And now they have a playoff matchup tonight, which is obviously a big game for them. Exciting stuff, as in their last game, they were able to win in 5 sets over Clarion, beating them for the second time this season. And that's just amazing because they've been such a good team for a very long time. So what is our set predictions for the playoff game tonight, guys?
I'm saying 3 sets in favor of CL.
I'm saying the same thing.
I'm going with. I think the opposing team will get 1 set, but the rest will go to CL.
Yeah, I thought CL will win in 4 sets.
3-1.
All right, and I think it'll be 3-1 as well, 4 sets. I think that they'll probably get the second set, but I think we'll get first, third, and fourth, and move on to the next round of the playoffs. So we wish our volleyball team the best of luck in their performance tonight, and we hope to be talking about their success next week as well. Now, moving on to our football team, they have their biggest matchup of the season this week against Red Bank. Now, both teams are undefeated coming into this game, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. So, do we have any score predictions for this game?
60-35 CL.
I'm saying 35-21 CL.
I'm saying 49-35 CL.
I say 35-21 CL.
I'm going to go with 42-28 in this one. But just going to be a huge game, and it also will be a factor that this is on Red Bank's home field. So we'll see how much that plays into the game, but I think that the Wildcats will still be able to come away with the win. Now, cross country just won their KSAC, and now they move on to districts this Saturday. Now we have a member of the team here, Jack Craig, and we're going to get some insight from him on how he thinks this matchup will go.
Yeah, we got to get top 2 for a team in districts to make it onto states. We're looking pretty good lately, and we should be able to get there. All we have is ECC really in the way here, so we'll see what happens.
On to our soccer teams. Girls soccer suffered an unfortunate loss in the first round of the playoffs, so we just wish them the best of luck for next season and hope they can do some great things next year, and they did great things this year too. We don't want to undermine the performances by Lexi Cool in particular, but we just want to wish them the best of luck and congratulate them on the great season that they had. On to boys soccer. They have a playoff matchup tonight. They just beat Brockway 3-2, and now they're continuing on in their playoff hunt here. So how does anyone think they're going to fare tonight?
I think they come away with a close match, but they come with a win.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 3-2 boys soccer, or Clarion for the win.
I think it's going to be a very close game down the wire. I think it'll end up being 2-1, but we wish them the best of luck, and we hope they can come away with the win tonight. Now on to some collegiate sports. We have college football, and the biggest matchup of the week was number 3 Ohio State versus number 7 Penn State, and Penn State lost that game by a very close margin. I believe it was 2012. Yeah, so very close game, obviously. One score. The offense for Penn State really just couldn't get it going. They were 1 for 16 on third down conversions the entire game. So how do you think that Penn State can recover from that game?
I don't really think they can. I think they're going to go to Michigan in a couple
Yeah, this game was played in Ohio, so that made it a lot harder on Penn State. They face Michigan at home, although it's not a whiteout game, unfortunately. But their odds are favorable when they're at home, so.
Yeah, I think Michigan or I think Penn State will recover against Michigan. Drew Aller got one big game under his belt. I think he'll recover and he'll play a close game against Michigan.
I think Penn State will recover, but I still think it's going to be enough to beat Michigan.
Yeah, I agree as well. I don't think that Penn State has what it takes to beat Michigan. And it's interesting looking at the Ohio State side of things. They played an amazing defensive game, but still didn't dominate in the fashion that you would have expected them to. Now, they were down their number one running back in Travion Henderson and their number 2 wide receiver in Emeka Ibuka, and also their outside corner, Denzel Burke, was not playing in that game. But you still would have expected them to handle Penn State a little bit more than they did, considering how they played. So just interesting to watch what both of those teams can do from here on out. And now on to USC. USC obviously has the potential number 1 draft pick in Caleb Williams, and they just suffered their second straight loss, which pretty much guarantees they will not be in the college football playoffs. There's never been a 2-loss team to make the college football playoffs. So what are we thinking about this strange series of events for USC?
I think they're out of it, but I still think they're a pretty good team. I just think they had 2 bad weeks, so I'm not sure they have recovered.
I mean, they've had 2 really bad weeks, but before that, they faced Arizona, and people were talking about the defense being bad. And then they go into Notre Dame, and Caleb Williams has really had a really bad 2-week stretch.
USC just been had a terrible last 2 weeks, and their defense is not that good. Caleb Williams is probably favorite ride.
And then analyzing the draft here and where Caleb Williams will land there, it's going to be interesting to see, because the other top quarterback in the draft with North Carolina, Drake May, he did not play a great game against 1-5 Virginia, and they ended up losing that game. So something to look at. Also, a very interesting piece of news is that Caleb Williams was hypothetically wanting ownership stake in whatever team drafts him. So if that's something that he really thinks he's going to get, he's going to have to step up his play for the end of the season, because the last 2 weeks have not been great.
Yeah, I think that both those quarterbacks' draft stocks could be going slightly down as a quarterback is emerging in Michael Penix Jr. possibly going up in the draft boards.
I think both their draft stocks are probably both going down because Michael Penix is just playing out of his mind.
All right, important to note with Washington there that Penix Jr. did have a tough game this week, and they were only able to scrape by whatever team they played. I cannot remember. It wasn't one that was really expected
Maybe
to.
Arizona State.
Arizona State. That sounds right. Arizona State. They really squeaked by there. It was a 1-score game, and they didn't get out of the teens in points. So not a great game from them. So the number 1 overall pick, I would say, is really up in the air right now. But it's still obviously going to lean towards Caleb Williams, but just not impressive performances from him recently. Now, moving into NFL news, we have the trade deadline coming up in about 5 or 6 days here, and it's interesting to see what big names will get moved near the trade deadline. Obviously, Danielle Hunter is one of the big pieces. He leads the NFL in sacks currently, and he's been on a lot of people's boards to get traded. Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins, kind of seems like the Tennessee Titans are just cleaning house there and getting rid of everything. The Raiders said that Devontae Adams was off the table, but we'll see if someone is able to squeak in an offer there that'll make them change their mind on that. Same with Josh Jacobs. You got to wonder if he could potentially be on the table after his poor play so far this season. So a lot of big names out there. And the Eagles already acquired superstar free safety Kevin Byard from the Titans. So you guys think that any of those guys are going to get moved here at the deadline? And where do you think they'll end up?
I'm saying Derek Henry gets moved somewhere in the AFC North. I'm saying either Browns or Ravens.
I find it unlikely that anyone would really want to offer a huge deal for DeAndre Hopkins, but you never know.
I don't really see any of the bigger names getting moved. I just can't see it.
DeAndre Hopkins might, I don't know, probably like maybe somewhere in the NFC. Maybe like the Ravens in the AFC.
Yeah, it's really interesting with the Chiefs because they thought that Mahomes would be able to hold it down pretty much alone just with Travis Kelce. But you can even though they're winning games, you can clearly tell he desperately needs a receiver who's good, who has actual talent to play the position. And they definitely
Jerry
are in.
Jeudy's also on the table.
Yeah, the Broncos have been fielding trade requests on every player on their team, supposedly, which is very interesting to see if Pat Surtain, the big superstar, will be on the move, but it's unlikely. But Chiefs are even more in need of a wide receiver after Justin Ross, their young star, was arrested on felony charges with $25,000 worth of property damage and domestic abuse. So interesting to see if they try and make a splash at the wide receiver position.
Speaking on that note, Chris Olave was caught speeding or something.
Yeah, that's not going to be very much of a big deal though compared to Ross. It'll be shocking if Justin Ross ever suits up in the NFL again after these crimes that are against him currently.
Nothing compared to Wander Franco.
That's a beautiful piece of insight there, Jack. Thank you for that. Now on to the games that occurred this past week. We had a big-time statement win by the Ravens, which they really could use after fighting a bunch of close games so far this season. And that was over the 5-1 Detroit Lions. So is that a sign of things to come, or was that a fluke? I guess we'll find out. And the Steelers were also able to pick up a close win. They really came to life in the fourth quarter there. Once again, amazing play by T.J. Watt, and they go to 4-2 on the season, which is a pretty impressive start for them. Any thoughts on the Steelers' performance this week?
Played pretty good for the most part. George Pickens had back-to-back over 100-yard games. Steelers on the north.
I mean, this might be like the most surprising 4-2 team I've ever seen. Saying now, offensively they look not good at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Steelers
Steelers.
defense is terrible.
Yep, I would definitely say that's a fair assessment. T.J. Watt's just unreal this week. He was out in coverage for a play and made a drive on the ball, intercepted it, and got him down to like the 4-yard line, and that led to a touchdown off the Matthew Stafford turnover. So he's definitely been playing great. Then the biggest matchup of this week probably, Philly versus Miami. Very interesting game between two 5-1 teams coming into it. You have two MVP candidates, obviously, and Tua and Jalen Hurts facing off against each other, and just two overall amazingly constructed rosters there. So were we shocked by the way that Miami played and Philadelphia taking the win over them?
It seems like Miami can't really play against the top-tier teams quite yet. I know they've had a lot of blowout wins with the teams that have been playing and just not the greatest. So I don't know if I'm necessarily shocked, but definitely surprised it wasn't as close.
A little bit of controversy with the officiating that game, as the Eagles had a lot of plays that looked like pass interference and other penalties that were not called, but it probably would not have made a difference as they lost by how many points? Like 2 scores at least.
Yeah, it was not a close game. And then Philly obviously had a chance to, if they really wanted to run up the score, they were on the 6-yard line or whatever when they kneeled it out, so they could have put another touchdown in the end zone too. But it wasn't close, whether it was officiating or just good play or bad play for Miami, whatever it was. It just wasn't a very close game. Any other thoughts on how that one went?
I don't think the Dolphins could beat like a top 5 team in the NFL. They struggled and lost against the Bills and the Eagles now. They've been beating up on bad teams.
Yeah, that's definitely something that looks to be true so far this season. As out of the 5 teams that they've beat, I don't think any of them have even won 3 games yet. I think they're all either 1 or 2 wins this season. I just saw that statistic the other day. So they have not beat a team this season with a winning record. So interesting to see how they will fare. Obviously, they're probably going to make a playoff push regardless, but how they will fare in those games will be interesting to see. Then the last thing to recap this week's NFL games, a very shocking win for the Vikings over the San Francisco 49ers, as the 49ers are probably the best constructed roster in the entire league, and just some poor play by Brock Purdy and a couple injuries were what really held them down in that game. Obviously no Trent Williams or Deebo Samuel, 2 of the biggest stars on the team, but you still wouldn't expected the Vikings without Justin Jefferson to be able to take that win. So this is back-to-back losses for the 49ers. How do we think this affects their season?
I really don't see it affecting them. I still see them getting the 1 seed in the NFC, so we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, there's really no effect on 2 straight losses in the NFL, as in the NFL, any team can win any game. That's how you see like the teams that are 1-16 end up winning games.
I don't see this affecting the Niners very much at all. They're without a doubt the best team in the NFC, so they're probably going to get first seed.
Yeah, the Vikings had a great game.
The 49ers, I mean, without Deebo, they just look different. They need Deebo.
Yeah, Deebo Samuel really opens up the door for Brandon Ayuk to have great games, because even if Deebo doesn't really have any production, Brandon Ayuk usually goes over 100 yards with him on the field if Deebo doesn't do anything. But yeah, just interesting things to look at. I think this will positively affect the 49ers. I think this will kind of give them the reality check that they need, because coming into these last 2 games, Brock Purdy had never lost a regular season game. So I feel like they kind of thought they were invincible. But now losing these 2 games, I think they'll really get focused here and start picking it up. I still don't see them beating out Philly for the number 1 seed in the NFC, but I think that it'll be a close race, and the 49ers will definitely get their foot back on the gas here. And now our last thing that we would like to talk about this week is the MLB Championship Series results. So we had the Rangers take down the Houston Astros, who have obviously been one of the best teams in the MLB for almost a decade now. 7 straight times they've been to the championship series. And so a big surprise there, and also a big surprise in Philly's return to the championship series. They were taken out by the Diamondbacks in 7 games. So with 2 underdog teams kind of in there, in Texas and Arizona, how do we think this World Series is going to play out?
Saying Diamondbacks in 7.
I'm saying Diamondbacks in 7 too.
I'm going to say Rangers in 6, as their pitching is pretty good.
I think I'm going to say Rangers in 5.
I'm going to say Rangers in 7.
Yeah, I'm also going to say Rangers in 6. And not anything to do really with their pitching, even though it's good. It's just when you've got the most dangerous man in the entire playoffs on your team, and Adolis Garcia, I don't think they're going to lose. That guy's just hit ball after ball over the fence in these playoffs, and had 40 home runs in the regular season too. I just don't see him stopping now and cooling off against a weaker pitching staff in Arizona. So I think the deciding factor in this series, though, will be the play of Texas's bullpen, because it is not great. Clearly their starters are quite good, but their bullpen during the entire season was abysmal. They've got it a little bit together here during these playoffs, but I think that'll really be what this series comes down to. So interesting to see how the World Series will play out this year with 2 underdog teams in there. So that concludes our podcast for the week. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for tuning in.